Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to today's council meeting. Could you please stand for the reading of the Councillor Buckendale.
Morning. Almighty God, as members of the Ringatekai District Council, we give thanks for all the things of our district and the advantages we enjoy. We pray that you will give us wisdom and guidance as we conduct the affairs of this meeting. We pray for all the communities in the district we represent. Help us to be fair and honest in our discussions, and help us to work together in unity for the welfare of all your people. Amen.
Right.
Councillors, I've received apologies from Councillor Hira and Councillor Field, and our thoughts about Councillor Field because there's been a family injury, so why she's not at council today. Would somebody please like to move to the effect? Councillor Wong moving and Councillor Charlin second. Those in favour?
Right.
Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you. We have no public forum today. I'd ask for, in terms of conflict of interest declarations, does anybody have a conflict that they wish to now? No. You can still raise them later in the minutes. In terms of the confirmation of order of business, I apologise, councillors. I'll pass after this to the Deputy Mayor, Dave Wilson. There's a business that I haven't been able to change the order of time. I'll be out of the room for a maximum of half an hour, preferably 20 minutes. So I apologise for that, and I absolutely thank Dave for being able to step in, and since we've stepped in a huge amount lately. So thank you, Dave. And I'll let you take over the confirmation of minutes.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Thanks to Mayor Andy. Just on the subject on the confirmation of order of business, I may just defer the Mayor's report if we get to that prior to the Mayor being in the room, should there be any matters that wish to be discussed by members. So perhaps I can signal that. Would that be appropriate? We can signal that we may just today the Mayor's report if we get to that at the next stage. So notifying that under the confirmation of order of business that there may be a change. Moving on to the confirmation of minutes as circulated, as read by committee members. I do not intend to step through them minute by minute, but is there any matters arising from those minutes that have been circulated to members that you wish to raise right now, corrections or amendments to those minutes? Looking around the room, I'm not seeing any. Could I call for a mover of the minutes as being a true and correct record? Thank you, Councillor Buckendale moving, Councillor Hainsworth seconding. Calling all those in favour?
Right.
Against? Being none, that motion is carried. So we will now move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is the follow-up actions from the previous meetings. Again, you will have had all those circulated. Stepping through those on page, where are we? There was 18, there was only the one, 13, sorry. 13 members. Any discussion on follow-up action there? Just being listed as 1. It's noted with a status of comments. It is also noticed as being in progress still. Comments regarding that matter?
There was a report that came through this morning, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Across.
Katrina just provide an update. Share with everyone.
Oh, yes, correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So with that item, I sent an email around this morning just with further detail on that. So it reiterates that the cost is made largely staff time, and that's been roughly estimated at about 600 hours. And then costs associated generally with the newspaper ad we ran and a little bit of printing as well, which is around $1,500. So unless there's anything further, would be able to mark that
Can I
action
just
item as
confirm that all members have seen that email that came through? It was early this morning. You would have seen that email coming through which relates to this item. Question from Councillor Dalgety.
Just as a generic number, because I would like to put an actual amount to those hours. Could be an approximate hourly rate that I could put across the organisation to add to those hours, so I can get a dollar amount, please.
We have to do some averaging of hours. That would be a bit of work.
For a lot of work through the chair, it goes across a range of people starting from.
Okay, then, so put it another way, could you give me I'm wanting a dollar amount, because I want to know that in my head for next time when we make the decision around whether we're doing an annual plan or not, consultation.
We'll do something.
And so
If you're not in a big rush.
a range is I'm absolutely happy with, but giving me an hourly amount doesn't actually tell me a lot.
Okay, on the basis of that, that sounds like a fairly fair request from the councillor. Clearly something that we can't put a number to now, we'd just be clutching at straws to come up with a number now. On the basis of that, would that require this item still to stay live? Would councillor Dalgety, you'd be happy to leave that still live at that, pending that that outcome as it will be a broad range, but I think staff do need some time to come to that. So we'll keep that one live as a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment for me, when I saw the report this morning, I thought it was really valuable. And I understand where council is coming from with regards to Dollar Valley, but we must also remember that's 610 hours of additional workload on top of people that are already busy. I think the number really stuck with me.
Okay, thank you.
And we have to absorb that additional work.
And I think that's the question that councillor Dalgety is trying to get to the bottom of, some of the costs that are associated with these types of things which are required. And it's the same with that question of audit fees and other such things, which are a huge cost burden on this organisation. But if we're happy with that to stay as live, I'll move from the chair that the 5 actions list be received. Seeking a seconder. Councillor Sharlin seconding. All those in favour? Against? Being none, motion is carried. We are now at the Mayor's report, so we'll defer from the Mayor's report and take that at a slightly later stage, which would enable us to move to item number 9 on the agenda of today's, which is the Chief Executive's report, passing to Carol to take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just do what I normally do and step through, and if there's any questions on any of the sections, I'm happy to have those at the time. So events held across the district, despite weather, we were able to hold some of these, which were fantastic, but it was unfortunate the Martin Harvest Festival was cancelled, but that was made not lightly, but I think it did help, and I gather the Gumboot Day was very successful, which was fantastic. They had better weather. Yeah. Just outlining staff movements and health and safety, the next couple of sections.
Any questions regarding the first couple of items in the Chief Executive report? Councillor Rockow, a question from you?
Kia ora through you, Mr. Chair. In the dashboard or the health and safety, I just want to ask, I've seen the dashboard, why are the incidents so high? And what corrective actions are actually, what are we doing to reduce the risk for that? And also in that report, are there reoffenders? Is it the same incident, or the incidents are being done by other people? Just it's nice, but I'm not seeing any consequence or progress.
Certainly pass that one through to the Chief Executive. Is there a specific area in there that you're looking at, or just general?
There was, just generally I saw that there's another 2 incidents this month, but it's accumulated to 88 for the year to date.
I'll defer to Leanne for this one. It's in her area and she's got background information on this one.
So thank you through the chair. So the reality is we're actually reporting and recording a significant increase because we've actually driven that program of work to get the recordings happening. So we've implemented systems that are making it easier for our staff to record. They can scan a QR code, all sorts of things. So most of it is near miss, and we record the near miss that we can investigate. So everything is investigated And I can't answer if there's a common reoffender, but a lot of our incidents refer to events that happen outside of our control, as in whether we get abuse from a public, etc. That will continually reoccur, might necessarily be the same person, but it will reoccur. So I'm really happy to see that we're actually really showing leadership of health and safety from the top down, and it's really been reflected in the increase in numbers. This is critical to us. Thank you.
It's just to support that, it is a positive sign that we are operating in an environment and a culture that encourages the reporting. Because without the reporting, we cannot put the actions in place to ensure that our staff and our people are safe, and also people externally of our staff, but our citizens, ratepayers using our facilities are safe too. So it's a positive outcome to see a high range of reporting. It can then enables the staff to drive down and dig down deeper into if there is any issues that require a more detailed focus. So positive numbers of reportings are a good sign.
Thank
I'll send that to you.
Thank you. And I suppose I'd just like to say as well, like Leanne said, we have made it easier for staff, but we also make sure they feel protected when they do lodge something, and they feel like they can do that without repercussion. And so I think it is positive as well. What the near misses is really a learning for us. So whenever one of those happens, we do an investigation and learn from it.
Councillor Sharn.
Just a comment through the chair that the Rugby Club 150th was very successful, and thank you, Deputy Chairman, for attending, and I wore an appropriate tie just to say so today.
Have a good day. Thank you for that question, Councillor Kawa, too, because it's important to take a focus on our health and safety. It is something that we should be all focusing. That's back to you, Chief.
Thank you. Just going to the next section, which is submissions. So whether there's any questions on there.
Councillors, any questions on that section? You'll be aware that we submit on a range of different bits and pieces throughout the year as a normal BAU with regards to staff. No particular questions there.
We have an update on Central District's water, noting that there is a paper following this agenda as well. But this is important just to keep you updated on the progress that is being made, and it still continues to be a really busy space. So yeah, loads of meetings and loads of things to keep organised within ourselves with the space.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions on that? Councillor Rakawa.
Kia ora. I was a part of the pōwhiri for the new CDW board members over in Palmerston North. Was good. Took a few learnings from that pōwhiri, which we have discussed at council and with the track rōpū. But I just wanted to ask, what happens if one of the councils pulls out? Or
Well, I think we do have a discussion coming up with regards to that later in today's order paper, particularly around Central District's water. And the next stages that we're in. I do note that Mr. Chris Dyberg has just joined us in the room here, so I'm pretty sure that would be an appropriate question for him. But let's pick that one up at that item on the agenda. I think would be good. And just to acknowledge your comments around the pōwhiri at CD, that was a learning curve for all of us, and I know that it was something that yourself and Piki Te Ora Hero, councillor, took on board back through Te Robi Ika and advised us well about that process. So it was good. Thank you for that one. We all got a learning out of that one. Good.
Thank you. And I think what I would say is there are documents that have already been agreed to that cover if one council wants to remove themselves or actually put themselves in that space. But I'll leave Chris and Brent to cover that off in the next item. The next section is around proposed plan change 3 update, and there's a recommendation with this to publicly notify the summary of decisions. Recommendation 2. If you want to move the report,
We might go to that. So I'll move from the chair that Chief Executive's report be received, seeking a seconder. Councillor Sharlin, second. All those in favour?
No?
Against? Motion is carried. We will now move to recommendation 2, which is around the proposed Plan 3 change, as signalled in the Chief Executive's report and as we're discussing right now. We have a recommendation there, seeking a mover of that recommendation. If we've got a mover, we can then move to discussion regarding. It is a next stage business as usual process for us. Not expecting there to be a lot of discussion, but if anybody would like to move it, we can move to a discussion should it be required. Seeking a mover for recommendation 2. Councillor Wong moving. Seeking a seconder, Councillor Okawa, thank you. Discussion. Councillor Okawa.
Can I just ask on that proposed plan change 3, through you, Mr. Chair, was there any key themes that came out through those submissions?
Katrina, Tiffany's done all this work, so
Yeah.
Just a,
yeah.
What I might suggest we do is when we get to the stage of notifying the summary of decisions, is that we will send out to elected members that information, and as part of that, we can send you out some information on kind of key things.
So I take it from that the summary is still being collated
Yeah.
across the board. There was a lot of submissions on it, so there'll be a lot of detail on that. Any further discussion on that? We do have a mover, we do have a seconder. Is that a question, Councillor Haynes? Moving, okay, thank you. So all those in favour? Against? Motion is carried.
Thank you. I might just
Have to move
ask
forward
if Johan could come to the table for this item, just the district licensing committee. So you remember council advertised for these roles earlier this year, and we've got a number of applications and interviews were held, and there is a recommendation to appoint Igor to this committee, but if I gather there is some questions around that, and Johan is happy to answer a bit of background about this gentleman.
Well, we're referring to you. Was there any direct questions from this, or would you like to just make comment about this process of where we're up to right now in recommendation 3?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not really much to add, other that we've gone through quite a thorough process to get to this stage, and so we've come back with basically 3 options to council to consider, and that's what we just wanting to see whether that sits right with council.
And so I'm hearing that a process has been followed to come to the recommendation that we have sitting on there for the community member. Questions on this one? Councillor Okawa.
Yes, so I see that the period is for 5 years. What happens when there is a change of councillors? Does that or do they stay on, the ones that were councillors? Should they not get back in or anything like that? What's?
No, my understanding of it is that once the councillor, if the council is no longer, then it's a reappointment from this council back into that space. Am I correct in saying that, Johan?
Correct. So for those members that are not part of council, they will serve a 5-year term. For councillors, they will serve their term. Yeah.
It's also my understanding that the mayor is always sits in this space. Is that correct? Is it an ex officio one in that role, or?
It's not a ex officio role, so it's up to council to decide who sits on the DLC.
So,
because we've got, sorry, Mr. Chair, because we've got a commissioner.
yes. Right, okay. As noted in the order paper there, a little bit. Councillor Baird.
In light of the recent announcement this week about going forward the amalgamation of councils, I wonder if anyone is keeping a little bit of a running tally of the things that might impact, for example, this committee, and how just keeping a little note of these things, where the unintended consequences of government announcements.
I think the unintended consequence of government announcements, councillors.
They get pretty long.
I certainly don't have enough time today the rest of this week or next week, we can have those conversations because they would be broad. But what we do need to deal with is what we're dealing with the here and now. The licensing commission does require us to have some members on it. Decisions do need to be made. I'm seeking nominations from the floor effectively. Councillor Wong.
I have been serving on this committee,
Yes.
and I will be willing to be nominated again if anyone wants to nominate me. Before we go on to that, is it appropriate to find out some information about Mr. The community members?
Because next segment.
Yes.
It's only if staff are happy to share that with us, but if not, we would accept that. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just broadly, comes from a long background of in the industry itself, but on the other side of industry, so catering for very large events, where he's been involved with the licensing process and working with various agencies to ensure that those large events, and we're talking about large scale events of 2,000-3,000 people at a time, where they've been serving alcohol, but also part and parcel of his expertise is that very much involved in panels and hearings in a different setting, but has got that background knowledge of applying that back to the decision needed to be made on evidence.
That's good. So clearly knowledge in the industry in the space of what this committee is set up to be involved in. Councillor Wong.
And may I ask who he is replacing? Who was the previous one?
Oh, there was a number of them.
Yeah.
And when the advert went out, some of them obviously chose not to reapply.
Councillor Wong has expressed an interest to be one of the members. So we'll start with Councillor Wong being expressed an interest. All those in favour, Councillor Wong. Seconders. Okay, Councillor Wong, thank you. We're not going to, we'll remove this as a total at the end of this recommendation. Looking for additional interest, Councillor Graham O'Fee.
Yes, I would be interested.
Councillor Fee's interested. Seeking the second of Councillor Fee to be appointed to this committee.
Could I just confirm with you what process you're wanting us to follow for this? Are you wanting to do it as one recommendation at the end?
Yes, one recommendation, but I'm just seeking
Okay.
that the rest of the committee is happy that that members step into the space, and then we'll do a recommendation at the end for the total. I just want to just flesh that out. The committee is happy for Councillor O'Fee's name. Before seeking a third person, interest from the Councillor.
Just have a question.
Yes.
My experience in this field is limited. I've had a bar manager's license for 9 years for a boat club many years ago. Would I be out of my depth?
I don't believe you would be at all if you were to put your name forward, because I believe that the skill set that sits around there is your knowledge around process. And that is where we come through. We do have a process that we follow for the Sale of Alcohol Act that is driven via our council policies in conjunction with Johan and our regulatory team. So if you have an expression of interest in that, it would be welcome.
I'd be happy to get my name.
That's Councillor Buckendale. Councillor Okawa.
Happy to second Councillor Buckendale.
Okay, so right, I just wanted to test that all members were comfortable with those names going to be forward and representing, hence why I was just moving that everybody had an opportunity to express their pleasure with that. On the grounds of that, I'll move from the chair that the following names be confirmed for the Rangitikei District Council Licensing Committee, with the approval of those three councillors being names added. Seeking a seconder to the recommendation, Councillor Hainsworth seconding. All those in favour?
Right.
Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Johan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you. Moving on to the adoption of terms of reference. This is for the Risk and Assurance Committee. So this has been workshopped, and there's been quite a good discussion at that committee. So now it's put to council to formally adopt the terms of reference, but happy to have any questions if there are any.
Okay, so all members were aware of what this committee is and its scope. It has been circulated. you would have all seen it. Any questions for that item? Being none, that's recommendation 4. I'll move from the chair without amendment,
Oh, risk.
seeking a seconder. Councillor Fidelghetti seconding. All those in favour? Aye, that motion carried. Thank you. Please record as such. Moving now on to recommendation 5.
So just going, maybe if
take
we
through
go,
that.
yeah, go back to section 10, Taihape Grandstand Agreement. So this is provided to provide some clarity around where council's previous resolution got us to. And so the prudent thing to do was to actually include something in the actual draft agreement for council to consider whether they wanted the expansion of subcontractors or contractors to be part of the resolution that was previously made by council. So it's up to council to decide if they want that included in this agreement to make it clear to both parties. But Galen's here to provide any further detail or answer any questions in that regard.
Okay, take questions from the floor regarding this item, and just seeking that everybody is clear as to why this item's on the table and the direction that staff are seeking with the recommendation. Questions? Councillor Dalgety, thank you.
A few questions from the document, please.
Yep.
That's okay. First of all, my understanding when council has entered into these community agreements is that council's funds have been generally the final fund. I don't see any, I may have missed it, anything around that in this agreement. Can you just clarify, are we the final funder? Is the final funding the 385,000 or is it a less amount? In the first instance, of my first question.
So there was a resolution about the final funding, but then there's also been discussion that if the funding was needed for example, the fire and accessibility report, which council would have to do, that could be used for that as part of the.
So just for one report left. What were we saying?
I think what we have said, and consulted with Deputy Mayor while the Mayor was away, the project couldn't move on without the fire and accessibility report being paid for and finalised and contracted. And the committee didn't have the funds to be able to do that. So in looking at the resolution, so long as the invoice was able to be invoiced to council, we agreed that that could be part of that resolution. So I think it would capture.
So am I understanding it correctly? We are happy to pay for the fire and accessibility report. All remaining funds after that are retained as a final fund.
Again, yeah, but they can approach us if there's something that needs to be progressed to the actual progress the project itself, so long as it is invoiced through council.
Yes.
So anything apart from this fire and accessibility report, and they want to go back into that fund, will come back to the council table.
No, it won't come back to council table, it'll come back through to staff, specifically to Gate.
What is, I see, my concern is around the risk that we spend the 685,000 and there's, for whatever reason, unfortunately, the community are not able to raise the funds required to finish the project. So then, therefore, we've got a elephant on the Memorial Park that we're not able to do anything with or shift forward. That is my concern, and I feel there's risk around that.
If I can make comment on that, the draft agreement that we have looking at today goes some way to addressing that with regards to the procurement processes that are followed with regards to accessing the funds. When this item came up for discussion at council, the decision was made that as part of that they could apply for funds back to it within the existing amounts of actually budgeted, but they had to follow the council procurement process. If there is a fire report or anything done with that, it is and funded by council, invoiced to council with the approval of meeting the requirements of the procurement. Therefore, that is a council-owned document. We own the document and own the scope on the council-owned project, yes.
So I'm accepting of the fire and accessibility report.
Yes.
It's what might come after that I have concerns about.
And I suppose to your point, councillor Dalgety, when a request comes through, like it did to me, to pay for that report, and I went to the deputy, I would go to the mayor and actually say, do you agree that this fits within what the funding was intended for, which is the conversation I had with councillor Wilson.
Where can I see that in this report?
What
Well,
in
I
particular?
suppose it's our
That
procurement.
agreement.
It's our procurement.
Where is that requirement in this agreement?
It's under the procurement, procurement and contract management, general budget use of council procurement policies, sourcing requirements, quotes, thresholds.
Sorry, what page, where are you, sorry?
It's
'Cause I
actually,
don't feel that when I read it, there was this protection, that's what I'm alluding
are
to.
you looking at the draft agreement?
Yes, I am.
Okay, on the draft agreement, under the procurement, section 11, procurement and contract management, general approach, use of procurement policy, and the amounts of to be met. More than 5,000, less than 5,000, up to 50,000,
Oh, okay,
250,000
yeah.
above. That is the intention within this document to give the level of security that I think you're seeking. But however, if you think there's an additional level that needs to go in over and above that, then that's a discussion that we could have. And if that's a concern, then I would be recommending that we didn't progress this item any further. However, it does perhaps lead to a bit of a stalling in the process, which is why we've got to this point as it came from a previous meeting as to why this matter hasn't been progressed.
I wonder if there is an amendment we could make to, if council wants this in here, under 11.1.2. Council will provide support and oversight to ensure appropriate procurement and payment controls are applied, through the chief executive and mayor, or through request to the chief executive, and discuss with the mayor or something like that. So it's actually clear.
Yes, thank you, that would be appreciated.
Is that something we can do now? Or can we do that as an undertaking, or can we actually have that in there so that we can
We can say that.
move this item on?
As amended.
Yeah,
Yes, as amended.
as amended. Would that give you a degree of
Yes, thank you.
lessening the concern that you've raised?
Yeah.
The whole intent of this document is that we certainly have these funds sitting here for the ongoing development
I
of it.
don't want to.
And we don't want to try and stall this project any longer than it has been and hamstring them from this committee then going out, and they can't go out and raise extra funds without X amount of things being done first. That's one of the things that I believe has been a frustration for us.
Okay, so I have some other highlights that I.
On this particular agreement?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So around item 5, project scope. At what stage do we agree with the scope? Does council get a chance to look at that scope and agree with it? So can both parties approve it, or are we getting told what they're doing?
It says under 5.3, the parties will confirm scope. So the parties, I would assume, was 2.
Yeah, so I probably both parties. Well, I've just written in there, both parties will approve.
So you'd like to see that, so 5.3, you'd like to see that a little bit clearer.
Yeah, thank you.
Would that cause any concerns, do you think, in Galen?
Or all
through you,
parties,
Chief
because
All parties?
under number one, you've got 3 parties listed there, so you might have all parties.
Thank you.
Okay.
So what will that actually look like? Will the scope come back to this table or not, is my question.
The scope potentially is the same as what it is now. If there was, like, for example, sorry. I'll
Like
start
if they
that again.
change,
The
Yeah.
change potentially is having public toilets at the end of it, and that is coming through to council as part of the annual plan submission process to approve.
So the answer is yes, if there is a change in scope, you will see it.
thank you.
Yeah, the other part of that is we shouldn't lose sight of that. This is a community-led project. We have some fixed funds in it, so certainly a change of scope would be a request for any additional funds. Because the funds are where the funds are at the moment as previous discussions. So we're not at this stage receiving any request for additional funding for this project per se at this point in time that sits in this document. There's no request for additional funding. Separate. Councillor Baird.
Also in section 5 and 5.1, project scope includes refurbishment, restoration and seismic strengthening. Public toilets kind of doesn't get described by those 3 words.
Public toilets are not in the scope.
And
Okay.
yet the plans which are on record at the moment do include them. And this is where the confusion for me is coming in.
Plans, could I just jump in there and correct me if I'm wrong, the plans that are on there go back many, many years.
There's a column,
They actually precede some of our block builds up there. There is a range of different looking suggestions, plans, scopes. There was a number of different community groups working and being in that space, and I'm talking best part of probably 10 years ago. There's been a range of different options. One of the things that was being suggested at one stage was that the council officers could be in fact in there. So there's been a range of different things. We're really just dealing with this agreement to enable the process to go forward now, and which will have some changes as we go forward. But I think the questions that have been asked from Councillor Dalgety are relevant and fair. So have we got those captured now before I go to Councillor O'Fee? You had a question?
Yeah, just what's the approximate cost of that fire report?
They haven't got the quotes for that yet,
Oh, yeah.
but I think it's potentially around 3,000 to 4,000.
Oh, yeah.
You happy, Councillor Dalgety? Yep.
So point 12, reporting communications, monthly written progress updates. I would like to see the dates and the milestones around that. So I'm wanting to, so this project doesn't drag out. I want to understand as a councillor, this is what their key milestones are and dates and budget around that.
Okay.
Through the chair, one of the members of my team is working with the Grandstand Group as part of that community-led project, and they're developing, the Taihape Grandstand Restoration Committee is developing their project plan at the moment, and it will have the key milestones.
So maybe add in this agreement, milestones with dates and budget, perhaps under that 12.1.
So you had a specific reference to dates or timelines or something like that.
Key milestones, dates and budgets.
Well, I just note that it's budgets, summaries in there, committed versus actual versus remaining funds, I would have thought does cover that budget,
Okay.
but I'm just seeking to be clear so that it's a very clear statement as to what it is. It's a timeline. Is that what you're asking for? That's missing.
If I may, I think I've got a clear picture of what Councillor Dalgety is after. So really is to cut the project from end to end into the bits that are milestones, and then more or less how much budget ring fence for this bit, and then we can track and see are we sticking to what we said.
I suppose one of the cautions I'd have is this group has to actively fundraise to progress the project. So tying them to timeframes for that might be more difficult. So the key milestones, is probably easy, but if they don't receive funding in a certain time, we will be continually changing that time frame. So the key milestones is probably a good
Okay.
indicator.
Happy with that, thank you. Thank you for the explanation.
Councillor Hainsworth, question from you?
Just a concern on that under $5,000 thing from previous experiences that to get a job done under the table, they keep it in blocks of 4,999. Is there any way we can keep an eye on, like if they're doing one piece that keeps coming up under $5,000? Is there a way that we can keep?
Protected from that. We actually do not allow that within our procurement process. We specifically mention that in our procurement policy.
I know.
We monitor that in a number of ways.
Something that pops up and red flag will it?
Thank you for raising it, Councillor Hainsworth, but I think we're hearing that it's, the council, our staff are aware of it. For our procurement policy.
I know it happens.
Sorry, Councillor Rocco, I seem to have taken a long time to get to you, but you're.
Councillor, through you, Mr Chair, question, and I'm no legal lawyer looking at this draft. What happens if this community group fails and we're left holding the baby? Well, is there something in there that we're,
Well, again, any work that I've done with regards to fire reports or any other commission work and bits and pieces becomes ours. And remember, it is our project. It's not our project, it's our asset. Okay, so we're not handing over the assets, it's still ours. So any work or anything that does to enhance the asset or any fire reports or building scopes and things have been done will belongs to us. This is the group that is going forward to do the job, and this terms of reference is to to agreement is to help enable them to move forward on the next stages of their fundraising to do it, but they don't own the physical asset. We own that. Is that? Hang on, just Diana.
I was just going to say we're already holding the baby.
That'll be a fair comment. Just, I'll take the mayor just on that. Mayor,
Councillor Zeta, mate.
sorry, I didn't see that.
Also, just wanting to discuss then item 2.6, which is what staff have brought to our attention, and wanting a decision around the sub consultants. And can you just take me through the risks of saying yes to this?
It was really bringing the awareness to council. At a previous meeting, council had set aside the procurement policy for Copeland and Associates. And with the proposed scope, which hasn't been accepted yet by the committee, but if it was, potentially they can appoint the sub-consultants, and it would take, potentially it could take the value into the next level of procurement where it should have been tendered. So it's making council aware that potentially sub-consultants can be appointed without the tender process.
Which we discussed at the assets workshop last week, I think it was, didn't we? Yep.
Yes. But still within.
But it's still within the scope of the stock.
And it's still within the procurement policy, just we don't have to go to tender.
Your worship, question?
I just wondered whether Councillor Kawa's concern was that, for instance, if a builder was contracted to replace a roof, that they should have the money in hand to be able to do that prior to the work starting. Is that where your concern was? That
no, I just thought the group might have some in-house fighting. They all decide that they are arguing amongst one another and can't get it together, and so no, walk away from the project sort of thing.
Yeah,
We've seen it in a.
I hear what you're saying there, your worship, but I don't believe that would be a space that we could step into or take any control of. That would be going down a line that I don't think we could control and wouldn't want to be able to do. Any further questions, Councillor Dalgety? No, you go.
Scenario planning, I mean, we have said, currently we're saying that there's 685,000 in the bucket. You need maybe 5,000 for this accessibility and fire report. I'm just suggesting that they probably are gonna need more than that to get from where they are now to get going. Yet we're saying we're the final funder. So I'm wondering whether we as council should be saying a lesser amount as the final fund.
Unless I've missed something, I think where we're getting ourselves a little bit confused is on this final funder. Now, the original decision that was made by council, my understanding was to make the funds available as it was budgeted to it and to allow them to have access to those funds to carry on with the community-led project. I understood
So that's where I disagree. I always thought there's precedent around us being the last.
Final funder has been traditionally, but we discussed this and I thought we made a resolution to allow them to have access to funds. Or was that a conversation that we had only at a workshop where clearly a resolution would have been made? And I'm surprised I thought that might have been a resolution around this one. Because traditionally we have been a final funder and there are many things that we sit and say, well, you got to get your money, we've done that. But I believe there's a resolution that stepped away from that, Leanne.
So if we go back to that 2.2 in this draft agreement, it says that council approved $1 million from the special and restricted reserves for the preservation restoration, including the seismic, and leaving it 685 after that's 315. It doesn't say it's the final. It talks about Copeland. Says that we'll determine how it's allocated and we'll make payments upon authorisation subject to final approval, but it doesn't say we're the last man standing, so to speak, if I'm interpreting you right. I can't see that in the actual, if the resolution's quoted word for word, I can't see that.
So does that need to be tidied up somehow then? Because Councillor Dalgety is right, traditionally, we have always said that we're the final funder and we have and are for many, many different projects. However, I think this one, given its discussions and some of the complexities that this group is facing to enable them to move on, that has moved somewhat, but it's not recorded anywhere. Is that what you're saying, Councillor Dalgety? Or are you saying that you want us to be still the final funder and not attribute any funds further to this project?
And I was just saying, as I understood at the moment, if we were the final funder, that they felt earlier in this meeting even that we were told that 385,000 was available. You needed another 5,000 for the fire and accessibility report, and the rest was final funding. And I was bringing up the fact that I thought that was going to leave that committee in a challenging space. So maybe we should consider something more than that so they can keep this project moving. I believe we should be the final funder of an amount because that keeps, well, it's a protection for us. There's a huge risk here that $1 million gets spent and we end up with a half-built something.
I just seeking clarification because I was thinking that we amended the 11.1.2 that support oversight and any requests come through to the chief executive and the mayor. And so it would still be final funding, but if they requested use of that, the request had to come through to the chief executive and the mayor when we discussed amending 11.1.2 earlier.
Council provide oversight to ensure appropriate procurement and payment controls are applied.
So I think if I just there is a resolution that council is a final funder for the Taihipi grandstand. That was made back in November. So it was a subsequent resolution put at that meeting.
Okay.
But then it's the interpretation of that is what you're
Your
saying.
worship, you've got comments?
This does need tidying up, and I tend to agree with councillor Dalgety in terms of you talk about the ability that the mayor and chief executive, mayor and chief executive cannot overturn a resolution of our council. So absolutely, we will need to get some clarification around this interpretation. So
Which may in fact require another resolution of council.
it could do. But I think if you would allow the chief executive and myself to have a look at this matter and potentially see what.
Yeah, I'm happy to just let this one lie for a little bit because there seems to be a little bit of confusion around what is a final funder and what isn't a final funder and what is the intention of the agreement to allow this group to move forward. So, but I would be liking to see, would we be in a position to progress this further today? Or are we suggesting this needs to sit on the table to a subsequent meeting? What is the feeling? And I'm going to just allow some discussion on this one because we need to get it right. Your worship, have you got some thoughts on it?
I'm just asking Councillor Dalgetty's intention here. Councillor Dalgetty, are you thinking to yourself that the money, a certain amount could be made available and a certain amount should be withheld as the final funder to honour the sense of the deputy mayor's description?
That was what I thought should be considered.
So I'd be open to that personally, I'd be open to that process. But I think perhaps we need some checking first.
Okay, Councillor Wong.
Can I ask a question of staff through the chair? Is this signing agreement holding anything up? Do we need to rush this? Is it critical that we?
I hear from the staff on that, but my understanding it is, but Gayleen?
To allow them to apply for external funding, they will need an agreement. And then external funders can also see the commitment from council.
So just on the grounds of that, I think we just table this for now. Do staff feel as though this is something that can be brought back to the table today with something that is, we are in a full council meeting, that something could be a resolution to enable us to move forward? Is that possible, or is there some risks associated with that? Because I'm just mindful we haven't got another council meeting for a wee while, and this is just going to hold this up even further. And there has been some frustration about how long it's taken to get this to this point.
Yeah, I suppose a further option is that you delegate to myself as worship and potentially a councillor to work through the amount you want withheld. And also, I suppose what we would appreciate too is council's resolution around final funder. So maybe there's an explanation of what the final funder means and then allocation of that amount. And we could work through that as an option if we were delegated to do that.
Yeah, it seems to me that there's a concern that's been raised from Councillor Dalgetty around this this matter. I think the intent is still solid from Councillor Dalgetty to enable this agreement to be furthered and to enable this group to further. But there's something sitting in there that has raised a degree of concern that I think needs to be fleshed out. So is the most appropriate action just to let this lie on the table for today's meeting or to refer it to a subsequent meeting is what I'm trying to figure out. Councillor Wong.
I'd like to actually proceed in the direction that Chief Executive just said and move to give the authority to a delegation to sort this out. So if they can come to a satisfactory agreement with perhaps
it would be a discussion between the mayor and the chief executive. Ms. Prince, clearly from our assets team of that, and Councillor Dalgetty to seek clarity on that. But again, I just want to know about a process that can that be done that would enable something to the signing off of this agreement to move forward, or does it have to come back to full council? That's what I'm concerned about, Your Worship.
I think in terms of the tidying up the definition of full funder, then I'll be more than happy to have a designated group look at it, subject to that being circulated to councillors.
Yeah.
So I don't think that council it would need to go through some sort of process. And So there are two issues here. What is the definition of the final funder and what is the amount to be amended if amended? If amended, yeah. So it's definition and would you be prepared to accept?
So we clearly,
outside of council.
clearly this matter needs to just be parked for now. Is the most appropriate way to deal with it. Have you got some sort of direction, staff, that we think you can take that, or is this something that you're just going to have a chat with Councillor Dalgetty, His Worship the Mayor, to do that to enable it to move forward?
So I think in order to get some proper wording on the table, maybe we just leave it to lie on the table for now and we'll work on some wording to hopefully bring back at this meeting so that we're not delaying this project.
Okay. I think the intent is to actually try and get this project moving as best we can, but clearly there's a matter sitting there that needs a bit more flushing out. Councillor Baird.
Under the Schedule 3 insurance requirements, the professional indemnity insurance has been highlighted. I'm just wondering what that was about, please.
Is that something that we can clarify now, or is that a further conversation to go back now that this matter's been asked to lie on the table? We seek some clarity around that.
What rules was that? Sorry?
That's on page
Insurance.
13. So Schedule 3 requirement, point 1.
That would have been questioned as a result of our band that we have our Aon requests us to have a level depending on the spend.
It'll just be highlighted for staff to check before it's finally signed off.
That's not something
Yeah, no,
highlighted to us.
It'll just be us checking that that is the sufficient
Or it's
amount.
signed. Thank you.
Okay, so is everybody happy where we've got to on this matter? Lots of good discussion here. I think the process is fair. There's enough concern sitting around the room to allow this matter to sit on the table, so that's where we'll park it. Subject to those coming back. That now gives me the opportunity to get out of the hot seat and pass it back to Worship the Mayor.
Do we anything?
Actually, Mayor's report.
Oh, yeah, or do you want to go with Christine?
Or can we just carry on with the CE's report? I've just got a couple of questions because we were on Taipei grants and we haven't got to the strategic risks, which I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Is that okay? Sorry. So through you, Mr. Chair, in terms of Carol, you've seen our RDC, you know what we're doing. I just wanted to know, can you tell me what are our top 3 risks for RDC in the next 12 months? Can you say what over everything that you've done and all that you've reported on? Because you've highlighted that in 12.1, what we've done to the commitments to the treaty, got a remedy for that, the legal stuff, remedy, obligation of health and safety, you got a remedy. So in the just a ballpark, what do you think will be our top 3 risks in the next 12 months? If you were to think of 3, it's not, that's fine.
I think where these sections, this from 12, 13, 14 onwards, they actually apply to what are the strategic risks within my report and how are they addressed. So we have a table of strategic risks that the organisation has, and ELT actually has these in their sites, and we've got I think it's 10.
Yeah, we've 10.
10, and they're all under review at the moment, and they all, in my view, are as important as each other.
Okay, thank you.
So we pull out the ones that completely relate to items within my report.
And my other question is in regards to mana whenua. I know what we do in terms of Te Raupu Ahika. And I think I had a question this morning about the role that one of on the shareholders governance. The mana whenua rep for that. So do they get a vote or is it just advisory role? I don't know. Is there any voting taking place in their committee?
In the shareholder.
In the
committee,
shareholder
yes.
committee, yeah.
Yes.
And do they get?
And they have a voting right.
Kia ora. No, that's
The
just wanted a
independent
clarity.
chair is non-voting, but all other members are voting.
Thank you. That's it.
Any further questions, Chief Secretary? And you're absolutely right, we should make these use of our time and talk about the shareholders agreement, Central District's water. Pass to Carol, who are you passing to next?
So everybody knows Brent and Chris Dyberg. This item covers changes to that shareholders agreement that has been socialised with council through workshops with Central District Water and also within this room ourselves. So this is formalising that process of those changes to this agreement and the reasons why, but I'm going to pass over to Brent to talk briefly through what they are.
Thank you, Carol. Your Worship, Council. So you approved the councils, the shareholding councils approved the original shareholders agreement, I think in December of last year. And it was brought to the table for your review and endorsement then. There's been some changes since and the need for these changes. They're not significant in each in their own right, but I'll just quickly cover off, as the report does, cover what the theme and the reason for those changes. So the first is that you now have Central Districts Water as an entity, as an incorporated company in effect, and as a part, and now to be a signatory to the agreement. They didn't exist before, so they couldn't be a signatory, and they are required to be. So that's that's under the first part of the change. The second is to do with the appointment of the Mana Whenua representatives, and that is there are 3, as you're aware, and they were appointed in the end, and the outcome slightly differently to what was originally anticipated, where there'd be a representative, in effect, as I understand it, I may have the wording slightly wrong, but in effect, sort of from each rohi, from each council area. That's not quite how it panned out to be, and so the change in this, and it was appointed by the Mana Whenua grouping, so this is, the change now reflects that, how it was done and how it will be done for future. The third part of that is a change relatively minor in effect to the terms of reference for the shareholders committee, which include reflection on the quorum, or the change to reflect that the quorum does include for a Mana Whenua representative. I think at least one from memory, but you can check that. And the other part is around the engagement through Mana Whenua and engagement with iwi as noted in 3.4.3. The fourth and other part of the reason for the change is to do with the local government funding agency, who potentially or probably will be a funder and lender in effect to CD Water. They have now, since the time of your signing of this agreement or agreement to this in December, they've now made a determination around how they will apportion, if you like, the liabilities associated with that. And it will now be on the basis of connections by each shareholder. And so that necessarily has a small change to the percentage rating for each of the 3 parties. So that's reflected in there as well. That's the summary. And while I drafted and had help with the report, acknowledge that Chris Dyberg to my left has actually been done and put all the hard work in behind this, and probably can answer questions of detail if you have any more beyond those points.
Before I take questions, I ask Chris, do you wish to add anything to that narrative?
Yeah, just one small addition to what Brent thinks. Thanks for that. But in relation to the guarantees, so as Brent said, there was just a slight change to the because there's joint and separable, which is exactly how LGFA work. You work at the moment with LGFA. The second part was in terms of working through this treasury policy for Central Districts Water. One of the things that they want to be able to do is potentially borrow from other parties, and the way the LGFA agreement works is they won't share their cover. So there has to be a second potential guarantee, and this is basically for anyone else. So basically, it's added into the shareholder agreement that there's this ability to have what they call the global guarantee, and that allows potentially if we wanted to use BNZ or Westpac or one of the big banks as a borrower, they can, and if they need a guarantee, one can be provided.
Just a question for me, just in clarification, and then I'll pass to Councillor Rakawa. So this effectively limits our liability within this to around 9%.
Correct. Yeah. So that's right, and it's in the situation, the very unlikely situation that you're in that sort of severable situation, and if they have to work it out, so there's a slight decrease in your liability because on the shareholding it would be 10%, and on the water connections it goes to 9%. So that's correct.
Councillor Rakawa.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. On that, the global guarantee, you've answered part of my question. What is it? What will trigger it?
What will trigger the
Yeah,
guarantee?
what will trigger this global guarantee?
Yeah. So it will be sort of pre-negotiated. So it's all signed up, and there'll be separate papers coming to council once the actual documents are done. So it would be so initially it is anticipated that all the debt that Central Districts Water takes on will be novated from the council. So it'll all be LGFA, so that global guarantee wouldn't be there.
Yes.
So you get to pass some over. Thank you very much. And it would only be if Central Districts Water decided to get borrowing from a third party, so like I said, potentially a bank, and two, in the negotiations with that party, they needed a guarantee, and it would be the situation if they said, well, look, we'll lend you money, we'll lend you money on 5% without a guarantee, but we'll give it to you for 3% if we've got a guarantee. It would be that sort of a situation. So LGFA absolutely require a guarantee. Others may or may not. So this is just in that case. If we've got to that point, then and this is one of the other things that's in the documents, is becomes a unanimous decision. So each of the three councils then have to agree to add that party to the guarantee. So there's quite a few checks and balances there. So that we don't just sort of sneak away and sign someone up. It has to be, and it'll probably we're proposing that that's delegated to the chief executives to be able to do that. But all three chief executives would have to agree.
Thank you.
Your Worship, I probably should have added that this same report or similar report has been to the other two shareholding councils and approved by them.
Yeah, that's very good. Still taking questions.
Yeah, I think I probably know the answer to this, but I am going to raise it. So the section in this report with regards to the changes to the mana whenua representation, and I understand the reason why, fully endorsed by Ngā Tapu Waiohau.
Yes.
And groups associated with and approved by.
I understand. Yes. So Ngā Tapu Waiohau, we've been across this. They happy. I'm not sure exactly what further consultation they've done beyond that. Good.
Councillors, I have brought myself back up to speed, having been away with this. I don't have any concerns, but it's important that you have a concern to raise it. Otherwise, I'll put the motions on the table. I'll put motion 1, the recommendation that council as a shareholder of Central Districts Water approves the attached shareholders agreement with the recommended attachments and delegates to the chief executive sign any documents required to approve the shareholders agreement on behalf of the Rangitikei District Council. I'm prepared to move that. Looking for a second. Any further discussion? Councillor Paul Sharron seconding. It's live. Any specific questions that haven't been answered already? Otherwise, I'll put it to a vote. No, I'll put it to the vote. Of show of hands, those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Recommendation 2, this relates to the delegating authority of the chief executive, the ability to agree any minor non-material changes to the agreement. I'm happy to move, looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Rakawa seconding. We always need to have this, because literally any spelling mistake or correction, and that is a legal document, needs, and they are minor, non-material in nature. There needs to be a process around that. Any further questions or speakers to motion? The vote, those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for coming over.
You're welcome.
If we go now, return to the Mayor's report. And we'll certainly take it as read. However, before I take questions of my report, so that you can also take questions, I'd ask councillors Dalgety, Charlin and Bear, who have provided attached reports to Zone 3, whether they wish to speak to their reports and whether they're prepared to take any questions from their reports. I'm not wanting to drop you in this. Councillor Dalgety, maybe if you talk around any specific thing or overview of the value of zone and etc. would be useful.
Firstly, thank you very much to council for the opportunity to attend. I find this interaction with other councils very, very helpful. It gets me thinking about what other councils are doing with similar problems to us, and it gets me out of my rut I tend to get stuck in. So I really enjoy hearing what other councils are doing and listening to the challenges they have. Happy to take any questions, but yeah, just really want to reiterate, thank you for the opportunity. I know there's a cost to council for us to attend, and I find it really valuable. I really enjoy meeting the other councillors from other groups, and particularly am so impressed with Gisborne Mayor Rayhead and the way she conducts herself and deals with problems. I feel she's an inspirational human being. Yeah.
Councillor Charlotte and
Likewise, what Councillor Dalgety said, I found it very interesting, and the commonality between all the regions. We've all got the same problems. But the other thing that struck me too was a little place like Stratford. We went and saw that bike park, and we went and saw their swimming pool. It's amazing for a little town what they've actually done. It was quite incredible, and it was enlightening to hear everybody shares the same problems right throughout. So yeah, very enlightening, and again, thanks for the opportunity.
And similarly, I echo what previous two councils have had to say. There was a couple of things as well that struck me, and one was the importance of the not-for-profit sector in Stratford, both the volunteer content, but also the charitable trusts, and then the size of those charitable trusts. And bearing in mind that those charitable trusts have come out of the industry that's over there, which is now in decline. And the efforts that it's not just Stratford Council, but the wider region are putting into rethinking Taranaki and what it means. So, the petrochemical, the wind down of the petrochemical industry is significant, and it has wide-ranging effects, not just for their own communities, but for nationally. Coming back to the zone meeting itself, yeah, absolutely good to see what other councils are doing in terms of the things that we share, but also that it's inspiring to see some of the things that they're challenged with, which I hadn't thought about. So it's providing a great deal of context. And final thing that I'm really encouraged by is the camaraderie and the general humour. But the people involved are respectful of each other, but are quite happy to, hopeful was the wrong word, wrong phrase, but to regard just regard each other with good, clean fun. I think that's also to be applauded.
Councillor O'Carroll.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to the councillors that submitted their reports. It was a good read, very good read. I just wanted to ask, anyone might be able to answer this, but I saw it in Councillor Dalgetti's report in terms of the tourism that they have there. Did they come up with any ideas or strategies on how they would get the visitors to pay? Did they have any ideas on how that might happen for them, might help us?
Nothing comes to mind, but so they obviously have, the Taranaki Regional Tourism, I'm not exactly sure what the organisation is called, but so they've got a dedicated tourism group, which I feel here in the Rangitikei we do suffer a little bit from being caught between, that whole, similarly as in CEDA and Wanganui business parties, and then I feel personally that here in the Rangitikei, that Rangitikei tourism used to have a lot of weight and seems to be not as effective just currently. In terms of answers to, I think they're just recognising that the tourism dollar is valuable up there. Yeah. Thank you. Someone else might be able to answer better than that.
Councillor Charlotte.
Yeah, I've got no more on that, but two of the things that struck me as we were walking down the main street, I think it was Councillor Dalgetti and I that said, look at the state of their buildings. And it reminded me very much of Martin. It seemed to be a thriving town, but some of their buildings were in terrible disrepair. And the other thing that really got me was Rahette Stoltz, the Mayor of Gisborne, when she said that her and the Prime Minister flew over the thing in the helicopter, and he virtually said when he went, he locked the door behind them and left them all on their own. It's quite a statement she made, wasn't it?
Yeah, do you wish to provide any further context around that comment?
No, that's all. Oh, sorry.
Yes, I was at Zone 3 for some of the time before I disappeared offshore. In terms of this, I'll provide some further report around this, but in terms of the difference between the Rangitikei and Stratford, there are some standout differences. And first of all, in terms of their infrastructure, for instance, their water especially, they have an incredibly cheap, pure source. So those councils take water straight off the mountain effectively. Minimal processes around that. In terms of the population and land areas, they have certain advantages to us. But the biggest advantage they have is, there are two of them. First of all, Taranaki has a number of very big industry groups, and their rates can effectively be subsidised by significant industries, and largely dairy-based, but energy-based as well. And they have, as quite rightly Councillor Baird made note, they have a private foundation. And that foundation, from memory, I would stand to be corrected, is something like 90-odd million.
I thought it was 140, right?
140 across, that's part of the regional one.
Oh, okay.
But largely based out of New Plymouth.
Yeah.
But I think their one's sitting at around 90 million or something of that nature, which means that they can go to do projects without the need to rate for them. because that foundation was set up incredibly well. In terms of the reference that councillor Sharlin made to the bike tracks, they stole a march on every other council in the country. There was a sum of money put up by government, and they were the only council that effectively got that together and applied for it.
Wow.
And government was very obliging to say, well, you actually need to spend more money than you asked for. And they had a absolute standout project that they had to grow in size to spend government money. And unfortunately, that was available to everybody, and the way it was done, a lot of other councils didn't pick up on that opportunity. I'll move on to, but thank you to those councillors that attended. I see value in you being part of these discussions, and Councillor Dalgety, you're absolutely right. The ability to see what other councils are doing and to be able to steal and replicate is important. In terms of my mayor's report, first of all, I'll take it as read, but there's some other things I'm just going to add in, then I'll take some questions. Additional to my mayor's report, first of all, Ratana has had a series of odour issues, and they have asked specifically for advocacy from our council to Horizons, not to us. So these are neighbouring farming operations. So there's been a request that we do something there. So I'm moving a motion that council engages legally, that engages urgently with Horizons in support of Ratana, requesting Horizons meeting with the Ratana community to deal with ongoing offensive odour issues. And deal with that separately first. I'll also move that, looking for a second to do that. Councillor Rokawa seconding, it's now available for me to speak to. This has been an ongoing issue, and they have struggled getting this on a table. There has been some correspondence between Horizons and Ratana, but Ratana feel as though they wish to have our support to their position. Any questions around that motion or speakers to it?
Is the odour coming from what they spread on the farm, adjacent farm?
Yes, essentially, yes.
The chicken.
I'm not sure material, but that's for them to sort. But we need to be supportive here in terms of advocacy for our people. So unless there's other speakers, I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. A couple of other things. There was a letter from Minister Watts, that I received 2 days ago. I've asked for it to be a tabled letter, and this is around potential reorganisation of especially regional councils. And the letter indicates from the Minister to say, for those councils that are in the position already to go down the path of unitary authorities or potential amalgamations, and they're wanting to be able to, governments wanting to be able to fast track that sort of process. And also, whether you put it as a threat or way it's worded, inherent in this is if you don't want that process, that is fine, but you will still face the changes, and there's a series of dates, 27, 28. The regional councillors will stay in position for the full term of their office this term, which is at the very least an important step forward. Inherent behind that, I think it's important that the Mayor's Forum get together and try and work out how we take a position back to council's discussion. I don't think that we can move or do anything in that regard quite at the moment.
Your Mayor's Forum, is that the whole, all the mayors?
The Mayor's Forum includes all the Horizons region.
I see, thank you.
And the Mayor of Horowhenua chairs that process. Couple of other things. There was a Palfrey to bless the start of the work on the Whangahu Bridge. This is part of the Te Ara Trail National Walkway. Unfortunately, none of us, because we had council obligations, the annual plan, could attend this yesterday. I did ask for my apology and our apology collectively to be passed through Kevin Ross, who happened to be there with his role, and also through Grant Hawala, and spoke to names gone out of my head. Is it Yates, the senior person in Walkway? But however, it has been passed on. And hopefully, and we have two other things. We're starting to put out in the public space the recognition of the community volunteers. So that process, Katie Deer's one was the other day, on Saturday. And we had one for Joe Ranguni yesterday. So it's nice to see those being passed on. And finally, I have had a meeting with Minister Peters with regard to Rail Road, and he is quite keen to use the examples of the Taihape Napier Road in a sort of national perspective around the need for agencies to work together and facilitate that process. Sorry about the wording, but take any questions, Councillor Baird, on anything.
Not anything at all.
Relating to the report.
Relating to the report. It's related to the question of rail. Some years ago now, I remember having a discussion with an MP saying that the rail was at capacity in the North Island, and there was a lot of logs and a lot of milk being carted at the time. Hasn't it changed? Has the sort of the general capacity availability crept up somehow? Or?
Oh, that's an interesting question, and I've spent a little bit of time, right? There is arguments that in terms of passenger transport, it is challenging, and that freight is the big money returner essentially to rail. There are capacity limitations in terms of we have a national system in New Zealand that is not double tracked on the main line. So there are passing bays, if you look at it in that nature.
Not long enough.
But in terms of capacity to move the tonnage available in forestry or steel or those sorts of things, I would have thought there is not a limitation. And they have capacity largely in things like rolling stock and so on. That's rolling stock is cheap. Go to Councillor Okawa, then Councillor Holmesworth, Councillor Okawa.
Kia ora, Mayor Andy. Just want to thank you for your comprehensive activity field report, even though you were partly here for the month, and also along with Deputy Mayor Dave Wilson. Thank you very much. Did an outstanding job while the Mayor was away. I must admit, I want to thank you both for this report. And in your report, Mayor Andy, I just have one question. That is number 6 in your report in regards to the Taihape health update. What's the escalation plan? When are we going to go and do this loudly as possible?
Look, there's a series of correspondence between myself with Jude and Akitoa Herald. Certainly, the challenge has been that we had a meeting with the minister and it all seemed to be on the track that the minister said tended to turn, so to start, we need to act on this. There needs to be, a transfer of the asset at $1 and a peppercorn. That was the attitude of both parties. And that the roof in particular needed attention from Aurora. And there was a willingness to look at other issues, and Councillor Long may wish to correct me or advise me later if I get off track here. However, then the ministry and Te Whara Ora takes over in terms of process. I would have to say that that hasn't been straightforward. And the Member of Parliament and myself have been assisting with trying to provide a little bit further clarification around that.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Hainsworth.
Oh, just on that, Kiwi Rail, when I first started driving trains, we were four services a day going to Wairoa with 16 wagons on. A disagreement with Kiwi Rail and Fonterra, they knocked off 2, they put it all back on the road. So how it goes now, yeah, like, they'll never at full capacity because they still tow a lot of wagons with nothing on it, so yeah, so. But the whole milk thing for Frontier and all that was done on a handshake. So then you.
Companies and forestry make commercial decisions on who should transport the materials by either road or rail. What concerns me is the maintenance of our roads resulting in damage from some of that transport being on our road. Councillor Fowler.
I'll be interested in any comments you've got about the campaign launch of a surgical robot at Palmerston North Hospital.
Yeah, I was asked to attend that. The surgical robot is a first for Palmerston North Hospital, to be funded really by way of a volunteer base. So they were asking people with potentially with fairly deep pockets to attend. I wasn't one of those. I was asked as a mayor. What was interesting, so a surgical robot, what it does, if you look at, say, whether it's gynecological or prostate surgery, those sorts of things, which it's heavily used for, can be used for brain surgery, but they'll put a tiny incision and you have a robotic arm that moves in and operates within the body, controlled by a surgeon. The advantage of robotic surgery is, first of all, in dexterity and accuracy. So, for instance, if a person operating can move their hand in that motion, a robot can spin their hand through 180 degrees. So it is more accurate, is recognised as being more accurate, but it's less invasive, so people get to go back to work far faster because there's no major incisions. It's an expensive piece of kit. At that meeting, there were 2 new funders who both stood up and said, we'll put 500,000 into the pot. They already had somebody putting in very significant money. So that is just about fully funded. Taking out the questions. Right, I'll move, sorry, and should go to the Deputy Mayor. Some of the report is essentially yours. Are there any issues that you wish to raise? Or?
I don't think so, Your Worship. I think it's just been circulated. It was just an update to capture some of the events that I attended in your absence. I think this is any particular question on it. I don't believe there's any further comment required apart from what's in the report.
Okay. I'll move that the Mayor's report be received. If I could second it to that. Councillor Buckendale seconding. I'll put it to the vote. Vote in favour. Those against. Carried. Thank you. Now we move back to recommendation from the 11.1 around receiving of minutes. Would somebody like to move that the minutes be received? Councillor Wilson moving. Councillor Charlene, was that you seconding? Sorry. Seconding. Take it as a second, Tisha. As a block. As a block. Yeah. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. I believe that brings us to close the meeting. Is there any further from the Chief Executive?
I just wonder if you do want to just adjourn and we will see if we can come up with an alternative recommendation for the previous item in my report.
That would be useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
And before I adjourn, councillor Beard,
Just a question on the minutes that we've been received here. I noticed that the Erewhon Rural Water Scheme minutes were not included in that block.
I see they're not. So do we have any advice from officers around whether they've been forwarded for reception?
I'll look through your worship. It'll just be probably because they're not received when they're not ready. They'll come next time. So you will get them.
It's just that, and the reason that I bring it up specifically is because we received a for the annual plan. A submission, that's what I was looking for. And I went to try and find those minutes and they weren't there. So I would tip for some context that, I hope someone is in a position to follow up on it.
From the chair.
Mm.
Do you wish to have your concern raised with that committee as to why they're not there or so?
Well, just encourage some follow up.
Okay, thank you. Most such, I won't close the meeting. I'll adjourn it at 11:35. live now.
Yeah.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you. I'm reconvening council meeting as of 12:02. It seemed to be with the agreement between the Taihape Grandstand Restoration Committee and RDC. There needed to be some clarification around the final funder. There needed to be also a reference to the previous council decision. And there was seemed to be a willingness to allow some work to continue. So what I will move is that council endorses the agreement between RDC and Taihape for proceeding with the grandstand, etc. As a council-led, council-owned facilities upgrade with the following amendments. First of all, the definition around final funder. The final funder means the remaining portion of funding allocated to the project that has not yet been committed or expended is retained for the completion of the project. And that matches then the feeling of definition of final funder for the 25 RDC 297 decision that Councillor Dalgety was referring to. Also matches in effect the definition as standard practice in the Deputy Mayor as stated earlier in the meeting. The change would be council will retain the amount $400,000 as the final funder, and the balance of approximately $285,000 is available to the Taihape Grandstand Restoration Committee through normal council procurement process as per this agreement. So it ties it back into the agreement at large. I'll move it, looking for a second, and then it is up for discussion. Councillor Dalgety, are you seconding? Open for questions, open for discussion. But effectively, this means that they can proceed with some of that work. Councillor Beard.
The phrase "as the final funder," the way that's currently written, the 400,000 is the final funder rather than the council.
And the 400,000 is the final funder that comes out of council funds. So
yeah, but the council is the funder, not the 400,000.
Final funding.
Yeah, final funding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or so it's either final funding or the council as final funder will retain the amount of $400,000.
Final funding. Just make the word funding.
Sorry, that just makes that make sense.
Okay.
So in terms of principle here, this is changing the resolution effectively of the amount, but it's providing clear definition around process. Councillor Wilson first, Councillor Wong.
I'm just seeking to confirm that I believe that covered and covers the earlier conversation of this table that I was chairing at the time. I believe it covers the intent.
Councillor Wong.
I agree with Deputy Mayor Wilson, but I just perhaps inform those maybe who have not been party list for as long as few of us have, is that if we do not allocate them some funding to them, then it will set them up for failure because they cannot do it. They cannot apply for funding without actually doing a lot of stuff. This is why our intention is we don't want to see all our money wasted and then it drops off, but we think that should be, I think this is what our thoughts and beliefs is through the meetings to allow them to get on with it, and hopefully they can have enough momentum to maintain.
Take it as we've had two speakers for. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Dalgety.
I'd like to congratulate the committee. I think this is a fantastic project and really want to see it go forward. I think this is the beginning of a project, and there will be some hurdles that pop up in front of them, but I wish them well, and I hope that what we're proposing today is something they can work with.
Are there any speakers against? Because both the speakers have been all in favour, I don't need a right of reply. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Right. Those against? Carried unanimously. That now I believe brings us to the end of this council meeting. Thank you for those online that have been waiting around. I'll close the meeting at